What happens when a parent wants to relocate a child? That is our topic for today. Part of the series, Mediating with or Without Attorneys with Tye Bourdony. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast by InstantMediations.com, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube, the Instant Mediations app, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact-dependent. Hi everyone, Mac Pierre-Louis, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator working throughout Florida and Texas.
Natalia Łowska-Czajka, advocate, mediator, and arbitrator from Warsaw, Poland.
And I'm Tye Bourdony, primary, mediation trainer and mediator here in Orlando, Florida.
All right, so this episode is going to focus on relocating of children, usually in a disputed case where one parent wants to move a child away and the other parent wants a child to stay nearby, okay, because, well, they want access to the child and to be in the child's life. And so in the state of Florida or Texas or all over the world, really, the issue of restricting a child's residence to a specific geographic area, that issue comes up all the time. A lot of times it's not a dispute at all. It's not a contest. And because the parents live near each other or because their families just live in a certain area, it doesn't matter. But a lot of times, especially in this world where people travel and move all the time, sometimes it becomes a big, big problem where custody battles ensue, time-sharing plans are affected. And so we wanted to take a chance today to discuss with Tye the experiences he's had in mediating these kind of cases and to just discuss generally and broadly the types of disputes that come up when parents start fighting over where a child should live, not who the child should live with, but the restricted area on where the child should live. And then what happens when one parent wants to lift that restriction and wants to relocate. So, Tye, could you give us a little bit of your definition on what is a geographic restriction and what have you seen broadly?
Right. Great to be here as always. And yes, this is an issue that comes up, all the time, one way or another, whether it's just for traveling purposes or in this case, actual relocation purposes. And so typically in the mediated agreement, right, it's boilerplate language, right, when it's not at issue. The issue of the relocation, right, it's pretty in Florida, in the parenting plans that I do, they're sticking to 50 miles, right? And you can move if you want to move. Whether you're the time-sharing parent or the non-time-sharing parent, whether you're the majority time-sharing parent or the non-majority time-sharing parent here in Florida, you can move if you want to move without a problem. It's not going to affect your time-sharing plan so long as you do so within 50 miles, right? It's once someone wants to move outside of those 50 miles that we start to have problems. Now, that is easily one of the reasons why a party can modify, right? A substantial change of circumstances in Florida is why you can ask for your parenting plan to be changed, right? Potentially for now, a long distance time sharing plan, depending on who it is that's moving, whether it's the majority time sharing parent, that is the parent who the child lives with the majority or children lives the majority of the time, and or the non-majority time sharing parent, right? The question is, when it comes up, how do we, address it? And what are the ways in which I've seen that can help the parties move forward? The first thing I would tell you, it's case by case. Every case is different. Depends on what's going on with those particular parties, right? It's great when they agree or can agree generally. The questions then come down to when, right? Is one parent the parent who's not going to be able to see the child as often? When are they going to be able to see the parent? Are they going to find that equitable? And by the same token, well, what about the costs associated with any kind of travel between the parties? That sometimes can have a lot of leeway. But again, it is case by case, right? More often than not, though, somebody is not in agreement. And when they're not in agreement, it's a lot of times because they've been able to see the child regularly, and now they're not going to be able to see the child regularly. Or they want to relocate because of an opportunity. Maybe they got married, maybe they have another job, they have more family, they don't have family here. And so when both parents really love the children, and that happens often enough, right? Of course, and they're concerned with the best interests of the children and not just because they're at war with the other, what you're dealing with a lot of times is a parent who wants to be able to see their child and does not want to lose out. How do you get them to see what's in the best interest of the minor child? And so it depends on a lot of things. It depends, do they have attorneys? Do they not have attorneys? And are they at war, or can they talk with each other? So it's case by case. And it really depends on what's going on. My perspective is, what are the things that is going to help move the discussion forward? And so as we're listening, we'll hear them, right? We're always looking for what the issue is, what their concerns are. And so sometimes we can hear the concerns. Can we address those concerns? Sometimes we hear the frustration. Can we address the frustration? So it depends on what's going on, in essence.
Thank you for that. And therefore, I do believe that when the relocation as an issue between the parents comes into place, we can look at it from the following perspective. Either people just talk with each other and are able to reach some sort of a consent and agreement, and they don't need any further help either from lawyers or mediators. Or, and unfortunately that will be in most cases, they come to some point when there is a disagreement on it, whether the child should be relocating or not, how can it be done, what are we going to do about it. And usually there is a lot of stress connected with it, with this idea, someone is moving, I'm going to lose the kid. There is a lot of emotional burden in it. Therefore, when it comes to this point, a lot of people just decide to litigate, go to the court and ask for the court's permit or court's order, allowing them to relocate and leaving the other parent behind. And again, the court will be deciding on some sort of objective criteria, but really not knowing the situation. The facts that you can present into the court are only those that your lawyers are able to present, are being perceived by the judge as important. There might be so many other factors that will not be taken into account, whereas in the real life, they might have importance. They can be really vital for the kid, like, for example, contacts with grandparents, things like that. Therefore, mediation is really able to embrace all those issues, even those that are not important in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the judge, and from any other, let's say, substantial perspective. Because mediation is addressing all those issues, those emotional issues, those substantial issues, and all the other questions and concerns that you might have when you are faced with the reality that the child can be moving somewhere far away within the country or abroad.
Tye, could you go into some of the solutions that you were mentioning? So when these issues come up, whether, like Natalia said, it's abroad or in my situations, generally it's more specific just in the US. What are some things that you've tried, that you've seen work, that might help folks out there and then give them a reason to come to us and maybe mediate their case?
Yeah, I agree. And I think something, Natalia, that you said struck me really quickly, right? If you litigate this, if it doesn't work at mediation, right? What are the criteria that the judge is going to use? And so you're taking a chance. Your attorney is going to give you their perspective on, what you can expect or what you can't expect, but it's a little more right there. There are things that the court is going to look at, and those are the things that is going. But in mediation, it's a little different, right? In mediation, what we're looking for as the mediator is, what are the issues? What are the things that are stopping them? What are the concerns? What is the possible solution? That's what we're actively listening. We want to make people feel comfortable. But while I'm making you feel comfortable because I'm actively listening, I'm actually really, really parsing all your words, trying to see. And so a lot of times, the mediator will seize on something and say, okay. And so I would tell you, sometimes what I've seen work is, for whatever reason, and again, it's case by case, so it's very hard to say it's this, it's the other, but sometimes it's not that the parties are not willing to do it, but necessarily they're either distrustful or certain things have happened in such a way that they're just uncomfortable. And so a temporary time sharing, long distance time sharing plan, a lot of times, often enough, in the right kinds of cases, can help, right? Because the concerned parent or the other parent who just wants to spend time or be able to kind of move forward, if they do something temporary, they're going to get to see how it worked, right? I like to say, you're giving one of the parties rope. And so either everybody's going to jump rope together or someone's going to hang themselves, and you're going to know that it works or that it didn't work. So sometimes a good solution can be something temporary, right? What is it that the parties were contemplating in that moment? Well, we want to see how time sharing is going to go during summer or during the vacations. Okay, what are the next vacations coming up? And then let's figure out what it looks like. And then the parties how did it work? Come back to mediation. Let's see how it worked. And then can we move forward from there? So sometimes a temporary agreement to put the parties, and so it will work. If it works, then they're willing to move forward. And if it doesn't work, then they're going to go litigate, right? Another solution sometimes is, so the Hague Convention, right? The Hague Convention has signatory countries from all over the world. And so it will allow, let's say somebody goes to another country with a child, will that country allow for the parent in here in the States, if we're talking the States or in whatever, will they allow you to be able to get your child back, right? And so sometimes one of the agreements that will help the parties be a little more easy with whether it be relocation or just if we're talking travel outside of the United States, right? Or even within, it's clearly outside of the United States, right? Is when I bring that up. And so then the parties will take solace knowing that, okay, they're only going to go to Hague approved countries. Sometimes we'll add something in there that says, or any countries that may be on, because from time to time, the Department of State will put certain countries, on the list of people shouldn't travel here, right? And so we might include that kind of language as well. And so the point here is sometimes that language can help ease some concerns. A lot of times, financial matters also have to be taken into account. Are there large amounts of money owed from one parent to the other? I know we're talking best interest of the child, but still, somebody might have more means than another. This might be a bone of contention. Can we fix the financial issues? Who's going to pay for the child's every single time they have to travel? How is that? What is that going to look like? And so sometimes that's one of the ways to overcome it. But regardless, we always want to address. I would tell you, right? We always want to address these issues anyway. But listening to the parties is where we kind of, I'm hearing that it's this, and so I'm going to go in that direction. It's case by case, right? It depends on what's going on with these individuals, and sometimes they just cannot see past the angst and the anger, and sometimes they can, but they're fearful of something, and that's why I like to think about temporary agreements, because that can help, and then bring them back, right? then continue the mediation. Have them come back afterwards and let's see how it worked, case by case. And there's so many other things, but those are some of those that stick in my mind.
Yeah, let me follow up on the solutions about money, because money is always so many cases that's what it boils down to, right? One of the potential solutions is that I've seen done is where you drop child support completely, or you reduce child support to account for the fact that the other parent who the child is moving away from is now going to have all of this extra cost to have to visit to be able to visit the child, maybe involving getting a hotel room or buying plane tickets, different things like that. And so, what other financial decisions have you seen as potential solutions for whenever a child is relocated away?
I like how you put that, right? Child support clearly is always going to be an issue. And I think what's important here is, so when child support comes up, right, either the parents really are trying to work it out because they have the best interests of the child at heart, or somebody's just being cheap and they don't want to pay child support. I think you know what I mean. And so I'm a geek, right? So my spider sense, if my spider sense is tingling, you kind of you've done so many, so that you kind of get a sense, yeah, this is somebody doesn't want to pay. When it's somebody doesn't want to pay, my standard line is, well, child support guidelines are statutory and we have to address them. That's not mom's money. It's not dad's money. It's the child's money. It's for their maintenance. And so I'm sorry, but we're going to have to. And so I will address child support according to the guidelines. But then you have instances, and I think Mac, you were referring to, those instances where it makes sense for this reason or for that reason. So by the same token, the mediator is going to get a sense, they seem to be working well together, and they're really in your head. You're thinking, you know what? I'm hearing all the right things. My spider sense is not tingling. Okay. So then maybe it is appropriate that we address that. And then I'm just going to be sure. I want to tell the court in my mediated agreement why child support is being affected the way it is, whether it be negatively or positively. I have seen cases where someone is more than willing to pay whatever they want, either parent. Because that's not the important thing. And luckily they may have means. The important thing is, the minor child. And you're absolutely right. Child support is not going to be paid because, and then I'm going to list all the reasons, the good reasons that make sense, right? Or there should be no child support because each parent is going to pay for the minor child when they're with them, and this parent is going to do all of these costs. They're going to pay all the transportation costs, money, the financial burden's the wrong word, the financial obligation of parents to maintain and support their minor children. Plenty of parents take that quite seriously. And when they address it in such a way that's really fair and equitable and they're working well together, it can do wonders. And I'm more than happy to help out in that regard. And I wish I'd see that more. I don't see that often enough. But then by the same token, then the question is, well, what is it that is going to help the parties, take care of this? And sometimes it can be. So for instance, in Florida, while child support is statutory, arrearages are not, right? So someone may owe a lot of money in arrearages. And so someone may say, you know what, I'm willing to forego that large sum of arrearages. That can help. By the same token, who's going to claim the minor child every year, for the purposes of the federal taxes? Even though there are federal guidelines with respect to what that says, there's no reason the parties can't tell the other, you know what, you go ahead, you can claim them every year, or why don't you claim them the next 3 years? And by the same token, right, because on child support calculations, really that's going to affect, it's going to come out more like income, right? And each child, talk to your financial advisor, of course, but what are we talking? $2,000, $2,500, $3,000, $3,500, depending on where it is, what the circumstances are. It can be significant. And so the mediator's role is to see what, if it's financial, you're going to get a sense. So where is it that we can go? Child support, arrearages, the yearly tax, exemptions, by the same federal tax exemptions, by the same token, the cost of travel, right? And all that kind of thing. And a lot of times somebody is willing to incur all those. The other party is going to be willing, whether because they need help or just because it can be a lot of money. It can help the situation. And then we have to look for what other, ancillary issues need to also be addressed. But finances can be a big issue.
Thank you for that. And that will be the time to wrap up today's topic. Relocation is a big issue. The modern world really faces so many challenges, so many opportunities. People want to travel to different places, not just for fun, but also to get better job opportunities. And then when they have kids, all these issues arise. What we want to persuade our viewers and listeners is really consider mediation every time you face such an issue, whether temporarily or you are thinking about relocating abroad. A word that means a lot, and actually a term that Tye has just used, is the Hague Convention. And what we mean by that is the Hague Convention on child abduction. And it's never enough to mention over and over again what it really means. If you relocate the child abroad to a country that is subject to this Hague Convention case, you might be, by the court order, obliged to return and to cover the costs, which on many occasions can be pretty painful, which can also be an effective mean in many countries. So really thinking beforehand on relocating, having the consent of the other parent, if not, then the court order replacing it, thinking of mediation as the most efficient way to address all the issues. And if you want to learn more about all this and all the issues connected, just stay tuned and we'll be talking about it more for sure. That would be all from us for today. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.